السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي اشدد به أزري ويشرك في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا. وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأتباعه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Now, alhamdulillah, the new chapter we are going to start today. It's Ma'un. So most of the people must know it by heart if they have raised by Muslim families. They have to memorize those last 10 chapters. This is one of them. Alaykum salam. The chapter starts with, there is no need to say, but it's a very early, the second year of the mission of the prophethood. So very early, mainly establishing the foundations of new world view presented by the Quran. So these are all the foundations. So we should not take the words to the context. Let's say, for example, towards the late period of the prophetic mission. It means late Medina. So we have to know that, for example, when the salat is going to be used in this text as well, it is not really the prayers we know. So we have to look into it, what it can be, because there was no prayer at that time, as we understand right now, or as the people understood at the very late period of the prophetic mission. So we have to say, for example, here, the first word, deen. So there was no concept of Islam as religion, as deen. So we have to look for the meaning of deen, what it means, and what it should mean in very early period of the prophetic mission. So although we use the title Islam for religion of the certain religion which is called now Islam, and those people who follow it are known as Muslims, at that time there was no such thing. So the words were used for their almost literal meaning that time. We have to bear in mind. That's why it's important to know that it's a very early revelation. So the verses must be understood within their own context. Of course, it doesn't mean that the verses must be understood within the context of their revelation within a certain historical context, but it means, this is how the revelation instructed the people or educated the people, trained the people in such a way that they should develop a new world view, get ready, understand what the meaning of life is for them. They should understand this. Rather than it is in the historical context means the context that we are physically experiencing in this world. So how it takes us through the journey of the understanding religion. These are the foundations that we have been studying. This is, let me go there, but maybe here, this one. Yeah, you will see that it's the 17th revealed chapter, although they are short, mostly. But this is not the first verse or the first chapter or second chapter, but 17th chapter. It means somehow the revelation was giving a completely different perspective to the world, to the people there. But it means I have to start my worldview, establishing my worldview, on the sequence of teaching. That is why it is important. Not necessarily I have to go back to the very historical context of this Meccan period and the people. But for example, it was so interesting. Historically, it was so interesting that the revelation to the, some people say last revelation, but at least it is last for us. There is no need to argue. So we don't have any other revelation between the first revealed date of the Quran and or period of the Quran and us. We don't have any other really serious new revelation. So as long as we have the Quran in its original form, if the Quran is the word of the creator of the universe, means the creator of the universe must be beyond time and space. As long as the original text is not lost, that's why people say Islam is the last religion. There is a reason behind it. I don't really blame them, but at the same time, it doesn't mean anything really. It's the last or not the last, but in the middle somewhere. Doesn't mean anything. But as long as the speech of the creator is preserved, there is no need to renew it, because the speech of the creator is repeated because the revelation prior to this was corrupt. But it is subject to corruption. Why? Because during those periods of time in human history, there was no such very widespread recording. Only even it was known to certain tribe, not everybody in the tribe could read and write, could understand, could study. Only specific, for example, in a huge tribe, there may be 5 people. So they can play with it according to their political stand, as they do now. Even they do, or maybe we are doing the same thing, adjusting the revelation and interpreting it to our liking. Well, we have to be careful, but it is possible. But we cannot change the original now, because original is available to almost everyone in the world. So as long as the original text is not lost, there is no need to renew it. Why? Because the nature of the original text is, as being the word of the creator, must be eternal, because it is coming from eternal source. As the revelation took place in such different places, and the previous ones, every revelation was a renovation or correction of the previous one, prior one, preceding one. Does it clear? So, because of the nature of the society and the human life in the societal sense, they didn't have any connection with the other tribes. For example, no one knew what was going on the, let's say, in America at that time, for example. Those people who lived in Asia didn't know what was going on in America. Maybe those people who lived in Asia didn't know what was going on in Africa, or vice versa. So according to the geographical conditions and climates and cultural level of the societies reveal, the revelation revealed according to the needs of these people, appropriate to their own environment. So what does it mean? It doesn't mean that in one time in history, there was only one prophet in one place. Don't think that there is a reason for it. I don't know whether I mentioned this or not. I shared my idea on this sensible, very sensitive topic, that why the Quran keeps referring to Torah only, almost only. No narration is shared in the Quran as referring to, for example, Bibles, not Hebrew Bibles, but Bible which is claimed now as the teachings of Jesus, but it's a biography book. What are the 4 books? If you read them, you understand that they are biography books, and including some narrations or quotations from Jesus' sayings, like the Sirah books in Islamic tradition, including in Sirah, you will see from time to time, occasionally, that the sayings of the Prophet was narrated there, but mainly life story. Yeah, maybe trying to put and contextualize the life of the Prophet into its historical setting. I think that is why there is no reference to the Bible in the Quran. I mean, the Bible is the Gospels, because when you say Bible, really the word Bible includes in it Torah, Hebrew Bible. But this is not Hebrew Bible. Okay. There is no. Why do you think the Quran keeps giving reference to Bible, to Torah? Almost only, and mentioning almost, there are a few exceptions. The names of some Arab prophets, which are really disliked by the children of Israel, because they don't want to acknowledge any prophet apart from their own descendants. That's the tendency. That's why most of the people who follow Torah feel in the same way. We are the privileged people. Prophets are elected and employed from our generation or our ancestry only, our race only. That's what the mentality is. And the Quranic argument against Torah is this is the point where Torah is corrupted. Limiting its audience to only one race, ignoring the rest, and reducing the rest to almost slavery or helpers. That is the mentality, and we can see that. But the Quran also always refers to the names of the Prophet in Torah and quotations, not only the names of the Prophet, quotations of the stories of the Prophet, which are mostly almost 95, maybe more % of the narrations shared in the Quran, although not the exact wordings or message, but content-wise. Why do you think it is? Although we hear the narration from the Prophet saying that there has been 120,000 prophets, it means really don't narrow your mind. In every society, at every age, there was an employed person transferring the message to the people in any form. They call it, I don't know, there is no need to talk about the difference between Rasul and Nabi. It's pointless. Doesn't matter. But there was representatives or presenters of the message of God to people. But only the names mentioned in the Quran, and people think that these are the only prophets mentioned in the Quran. Not at all. But they are the ones mentioned in Torah. Why? Any idea? I think it is not directly related to our topic now. Sorry?
To confirm it's the same message?
But only Torah. Why not others?
Because those were the people that they knew about,
Who know?
the people who the revelation was.
No, not but partially true. I'm not saying you are completely wrong. It's partially true. Why partially true? The Central Arabian Peninsula was surrounded by empires. We have to know the historical condition of that. For example, on the northwest, Roman Empire, and also Palestine, and now Lebanon, and not Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon, Diyar Sham, it means, which is called this area, Syria, etc., was under the control of Roman Empire, and Romans were not Christian, but the people were mostly pagan, but Christianity in one way or another during the life of the prophet was known to them. But the real followers of the Christians were Habeshan, how is it called? Ethiopia now. The time Habeshi people. Abyssinia, yeah. Or they were Christian people, practicing Orthodox Christian people. It was on the west of Arabian Peninsula, complete west, and a little bit on the southwest of Arabian Peninsula. Generally speaking, south and east of Arabian Peninsula was Iranian tradition, which is that time, whatever you call them, Confucianism or whatever you call them, their religion and under Iranian Empire. Not only the other side of the sea, the Persian Gulf, but this side of, nowadays it is called this Persian Arab countries, no, the Gulf countries, Arab Gulf countries. They were also, these parts were also occupied by Iranians under their domain. And also Confucianism was introduced, whatever their religion was, whatever they had religion, they had text, they had some figures to follow in the name of religion. But we have to know that now everywhere is surrounded, but in the middle, Hijaz was deprived of any civilization because none of this empire ever thought to invade and take the control over the Bedouins, which they have no real settlement, with a very exceptional places, settlement places, maybe Taif, the Jews, Medina, and the Jews there established there where the Prophet Muhammad was appeared in the world, so as a prophet. But not all of them. So no one wanted to get into a desert. And what is the benefit? There is no benefit. Why should I take the control of desert? What shall I do with it? And the people there, here and here and here, are 10 people here, 100 miles away, another 20 people. What shall I do with them? There is nothing to, resource to transfer to the empire. They ignored it. But this is a preparation, it's the perfect preparation. This was the least, not necessarily at all, civilized section of the world, known world that time. Not least the world, but there's no civilization. We know that they didn't know anything as far as the settlement life and really anything as a civilized society. They were tribes, and because they didn't have any value, we have to understand this. They didn't have any value from something moral, something let's call it higher degree, for example, in the religion to follow. That's what we have to know now in order to study this verse. That it's the first verse now. They didn't have any religion as it is known now, or as it is known to Romans or Abyssinians and Iranians. There was no such thing. So they didn't have any concept of having a text or any sacred text. That's called scripture. They didn't have any concept of prophet. We should know that these concepts did not occur to them, but they heard the people around, far away. Most of them didn't know. Only those traders were aware of their existence, but they didn't know which kind of culture they had. Even in Medina, in the suburban area of the city, there were mainly three Jewish tribes, but they had their own culture. Some people, I don't know, I hear some people speaking about Jews and Christians in Medina, but historically there is no Christian in Medina. Only Jews in the suburb. In the middle, in the middle of the city was or not occupied, really inhabited by pagan Arabs. But they had one sacred thing that is interesting. They were proud of it without why. Kaaba. So Abraham, because they are so mad, crazy about their lineage. So their Arab lineage goes back to Ishmael, the son of Abraham. That is why they were concerned about it, because of racial pride, nothing to do with religion.
But why were they proud?
Sorry? Because they were, these people, Abraham was the establisher of Kaaba here, and it was Baytullah. They didn't know what it means really, Baytullah. But the concept of God existed in their minds, but they had no connection, no definition of concept of God. Just knowing in a very, very general sense that, like now in the society, if someone is not affiliated with any religion, they are called agnostics or atheists. They have the concept of God. They accept or not, but they have the concept of God. They know, they heard of it. But there's nothing much within this barren land, as if I understand that if it is the last religion, then God established the last religion, introduced his last revelation to a kind of people who had no background at all, as far as the religious tradition is concerned. For example, we understand that it was very difficult for Jews to accept Muhammad and his revelation as coming from God. Why? It was because they were comparing the Quranic teaching with already existing culture and making comparison and competing with it. We are better than you are now with your with your claimed religion, but Arabs, Bedouin Arabs, or where the Prophet started his mission first, did have nothing to compare. Only they wanted to preserve their status. Who they, when I say they, who they represented chieftains. Ordinary people were poor, most of them are slaves. They didn't really take care of anything at all as far as the administration is concerned. That is why the resistance against the teachings of the Prophet came from where? From the slaves? No, chieftains. How many of them? What is the percentage of the chieftain and his family in the whole tribe? 1%, 2%? They were in minority, but they are holding the power. So the resistance, we talk about this case with a very wrong language. We hear, I don't, but we hear. One, the Quraysh in Mecca rejected the prophet, didn't want to submit to him, only with a few exceptions. It's not right. Only the chieftains, certain names, rejected the prophet. The others were just following them, slaves, etc. They were just slaves, etc. Following them. We follow that picture now. Get the picture of it. So the neighboring tribes, when the matter was established in Medina, and the Medinan, the people of the Arab Bedouins in Medina did not resist the prophet. Why? We don't need any resistance within Medina. Sorry?
Wanted to be free, I was saying.
But plus, they knew, although they didn't associate themselves with the culture, Jewish culture, they knew that the people around them claim that they believe in God and they have their prophets, it is messengers sent by or employed by this God, and they had their sacred books and they were studying the books, they were civilized and they were admiring them. But didn't associate themselves with Jewish tradition. Why? First, you know that essentially Judaism doesn't accept essentially conversion, because in order to be a Jew, what? You have to belong to a certain tribe or race. That's it. Sorry?
Bloodline.
Yeah, bloodline. If you are not of the bloodline, you are nobody. Right? You are the slaves. I mean, the slave doesn't mean that we understand now. They are the leaders of the mankind. The rest are expected to help and serve them, but not personal service, to be honest. They are going to establish the on earth. Yeah? That is what Palestine, or the sacred place in Palestine. The center is the Palestine. But they have to establish, that's what they believe, they have to establish the parasitical life on earth by the, under their leadership, by the help of other humans. So they were not interested in converting the Arabs into their religion. Oh, they didn't really want them to imitate them, to follow them. They didn't want them, the Bedouin Arabs, to follow their civilization either, because if they did the same thing, they would be equal. So let them stay as they are with no civilization. That was the policy taking place at that time. But they knew, the Bedouin Arabs of Medina knew, because they were neighbors. The Meccan Arabs were not that much aware of the real established civilization, the Jewish civilization. It was only in Medina and in Taif, some very small places. Not that Medina wasn't a lot, small place, but the locations, certain locations only. So they heard of it, but not like the Medinan Bedouin Arabs. So they were admiring them, but they were not welcomed. They were not encouraged. They were not really felt at all a part of this community at all. So separate community, completely separate. They were admiring the Jews. So when the prophet came with almost similar concepts, what happened? Feel free. Yep. Uh, they were admiring this kind of things already. That is why there was no conflict between the prophetic mission and the Medinian Bedouin Arab population. We have to understand this. That is why the fundamental reason the prophet was welcomed, although people were not really confirming the message of the prophet. Do you see the reason behind it? Do you understand? Yeah. Although they didn't know what the prophet was really teaching, but at least he introduced the concept of messengership, the concept of God who is speaking, sending the message, and introducing a new way of life in their life. And this way of life is similar to that of Jews' life. Oh, look, we are going to have something also great. Yeah. Our own prophet, our own scripture, our own civilization. There was no resistance against prophet among Medinian Arab population. Isn't that interesting? So later revelations during the Medina combined the root of two revelations, Torah, root of two revelations, and the Quran together. That I said it is partially correct. In Medina, it is correct. In Mecca, it wasn't. So what the Quran, by its nature, we have to understand, Quran has two functions mainly. One is introducing, refreshing the belief system, which is established around the pivot of oneness of God and explaining everything in terms of God's being absolute and hold of the control of the whole universe alone. Doesn't have anyone who share his dominion, if you like. But practically, another function of the Quran is to demonstrate the corrupted part of the prior revelations. So the purpose of the Quran, the mission of the Quran was fulfilled by refreshing the minds of the people in the belief in absolute creator, plus all the ethical, moral teachings were practical teachings, not theoretical belief teaching, practical teachings, which we are going to see now in the term deen here. That is the religion, in the term religion here. We are going to study that. So correcting the corrupted parts, deviated parts, modified parts, or completing if something is omitted in the historically, because of, for example, everybody says in America that the Muslim population are mostly terrorists, or they don't say terrorists, but they say terrorists. Yeah, terrorists. So what we do, we really shun away from narrating the verses of the Quran mentioning about jihad. Yeah, we say, oh, God is merciful in our religion as well. Do you understand? The psychology affected by general public. So if it continues and God forbid, if it turns into oppression, what do they do now? They take those verses out. It happened in India when the colonizers came there. So in order to justify the colonizers' ideology, and there were some people working along with the colonizers. And what they did, they took the jihad verses out of the Quran. They said that's what Allah revealed. You know that. I don't want to mention the names. You must have heard of it. Yeah, this is the new revelation. As if God abrogated those verses. Do you understand? So it must happen the same thing, because in the history we know that the Jewish people went through different prosperous life, rarely, mostly scattered to the diaspora. And they were just enslaved, for example, and beaten up, and they had to find the ways to survive. Struggle was with them always. Oh, the Quran gives different narrations, different reason for it, not as I'm giving now. Quran's revelation, giving the reason from, how do you say, God's justice, what they did to the prophets, now you have to suffer. That is a different subject, not our subject. We are under discussion now. So Judaism was the almost known religion attributed to God. Even Christianity, but Christianity accepts Torah tradition as well. It means Hebrew Bible. So if you like encountering and how do you say this word? But comparison, making a comparison, let's say. What is corrupted, what is not corrupted, what is right, what is wrong, this kind of comparison. Torah, making the reference to Torah encapsulated Christian culture as well. But Christian culture is, again, when Jesus introduced his religion, there was no Christianity. When Muhammad was introduced the religion, there was no Islam religion as such, as it is called now. We very frequently refer to it. So Islam is the attitude of a person, really, whether ready to submit the truth as he receives or reject it. Yeah. Muslim means the one who submits to truth. Islam is submitting to truth. Munkar or kafir, rejecting the truth. Very generally. Later on, it became a political identity, and identifying certain people with their religion, with a certain name. They said Islam, and with those people who follow that religion, Muslim. It's later on. So, did you get the picture now, where we are, what these verses are revealed to, and why Quran gives reference to Torah only? Torah sources were almost only available sources to the people, so that they may make comparison. What is corrupted? What is corrected? What is missed out? What is brought back? That was the only reference point. And if you may go and study the Far Eastern traditions, but what is known as really directly revealed a religion by God to the humankind is what? Judaism, Christianity, Islam. And Christianity did not lose all the sources, but what is prevalent now among the people? For canonical Bibles. So for Matthew, Mark, Lord, you know that. So these sources does not really introduce religion. They are mostly based on ethical moral teachings, not religion as we are going to study now. So there is no need, but there is no need to give reference to Christianity, but not the Christianity as it is known now, followers of Jesus. Yeah, Nasara is called really followers of Jesus because of the birthplace of Jesus. Yeah, like saying that Muhammad Quraishi, something like that. So when Quran gives reference, it includes the Christianity, but the main fundamental scripture that the Christendom also followed was Torah again, available source. So there is no way to compare with Christian sources as it is known to people now. So in order to fulfill its function, it has to limit its reference to Torah, no other source. That's why the Torah, biblical prophets, and text of Torah is mentioned in the Quran. And all the references, the names of the prophets mentioned in the Torah, refreshed and showed that, look, these places are really, if you like, not deliberately, maybe in the course of time, people forgot or for any reason, political, social, economical, or lots of reasons, they are deviated, misunderstood, correction is there. That is the reason why Quran repeats the same prophetic stories as mentioned in the Torah. Now, that is a background introduction, because we have to study religion, the word religion, and deen. So, have you considered the one? Can we start? Yeah? Right, so, have you considered the one who denies religion? Now, the problem is, what do we mean by religion? Now, since we cannot talk about the word religion as an institution, what are we going to do?
Approach it as like a worldview, like an ideology.
Like an idea, taking the meaning from its root, right? Root in the language, Arabic. So what the religion, the word in Quran is deen. Yeah? So, or this is a noun. But what is the root? Three letters. Dane. Yep. So what does it mean? All the words dane, din, ediyan comes from there. Dain, duyun comes from there as well. So to owe something to somebody is represented with the word dane, dain. So when you are in debt to somebody, the debt is called in Arabic dain. Yep. So there comes the word Medina. Have you noticed that? No, Medina is called the Ismu Mekan, how do you say it in Turkish? The noun which represents the place. Yeah. So where the Danes are paid, where the debt is paid. It means practical in the culture, Medina is where the debts are, it means the citizens have to pay their tax. That's their debt to the state administration, right? IRS. so that is, IRS is the Medina of American population or civilization. No, here it is empty place. So I hope you catch up with the right there. Okay. What did you say that we are almost getting to the end? We have some time, some minutes. So, okay. Now, what do they deny? Literally, from the root meaning of the word is they deny their debt. They don't want to pay it to the due authority. Yeah. For example, a debtor, you give some money to lend somebody to someone else. Now, if you say, no, I have no debt, what does it mean? You are denying that you owe something to the person you got something. It means borrow something from him or her. Got it? Now, what is it to do in the context of the Quranic teaching? Now, do you think the Quran says, don't deny your debt to the persons? What is the main purpose of the Quran? Why do you think God sends the revelation by definition? Because Quran says, I am the speech or word of the Creator. Okay. You speak to me, oh my Creator. You are telling me that, look, you have to pay debt, your debt, to the one who gives a debtor. How do you say? The debtor is the one who owes it, or debtor is the one who gets it? I don't know the word. Help me. No, natives. Come on, those know. What is?
Never
What-
had to take a loan, so don't know.
So you don't know. Sorry?
Be like that, or-
I don't know. Let the people whose native language is English, almost native, those people, yeah.
I think it's the one who gives, I think,
Is debtor,
probably
not the one who receives it. How do you call them?
indebted.
So indebted person.
Right.
All right.
Let's just go with that.
What is it to do with worldview? The Arabs will say, or the people will say, excuse me, in every society, with no exception, if you owe anything to somebody, you have to return it. Right? I don't need my God to tell me. Primarily, fundamentally, because the Quran's this verse revelations are in order to establish the fundamental worldview. It has nothing to do with it because it is known to people. Don't bother. I will say to God, you have already given me the sense within my humanity. I know that I have to pay the debt, but Quran must introduce to humanity a new way of understanding returning the debt. What is that? So, mainly, since the main purpose of the Quran is to establish the concept of God and how to have the relationship between you and your Creator. The first and foremost important objective of the Quran is to establish this notion of God and relationship with Him, between me and my Creator. Are we aware of it? I think you are all. Yeah? Is there anyone who says, no, must be something else? First thing, most important, who we are in this world, and who brought us to this world, do we owe anything to Him? Because He gave us all the universe. Yep.
I have a question. So, I guess when you owe something to someone,
Mhm.
doesn't it kind of require you kind of taking that loan to begin with?
Yes, okay.
Like, I'm not sure if I'll give someone their money back if they just give me their money to begin with,
Okay,
you know.
okay.
But if I take that money, then I'm like, oh, I
Okay.
took that loan, I will give it back.
Okay, okay. Do you respect your father?
Yeah.
You tremble before him, huh? So, no, not to hurt your mother. Why? Did you ask them, please give me some money or something so that I will give them back to you? I will give it back to you.
I would say it's just the reality. It's just how it is.
No, that the reality of the universe. Think about it.
Yes,
The
but
one,
then
not the one who took care of you when you were a baby, when you were needy. How about the one who gave you the whole universe and your existence? Now, did you ask them? No. Did you ask the one who gave you the universe? And if you accept that, or if you think that the universe is given to me, I found myself here ready, in the ready atmosphere, environment. Everything is prepared for me. So you say, do you remember which kind of troubles, problems they had when you were a baby? Do you?
as
Baby,
much as I've
6
been
months,
told,
6 months old. Sorry?
as much as I've been told,
You are told, not you are aware of it. But it is with you that you know that they have taken care of you because you are alive now, healthy. Yeah, otherwise you would die or you would have died. Or you will be with lots of miseries and problems and because you were not taken care of in a healthy way. You guess that they really took care of me. Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't be as healthy as I am within the already given conditions of this universe. It makes sense. So you feel indebted to them, as I did, as I do, and as I did, because already given favor. How about the universe? Go back to the universe. Yes.
I mean,
Now you don't want to be.
I don't like
You
this
don't want to
example at
feel
all.
indebted to your parents. Yeah.
I don't like this example at all.
Well, no, because you don't like it. Yes.
Because,
Why?
No, I mean, first of all, there's no consent involved, right? Like, I could say so many things in terms of, well, I didn't ask to be born, use that teenage angst, or
Yeah.
I could say things like, I didn't have the consciousness to force you guys to look after me, etc., etc. When you said, understanding it in terms of the one who denies their debt, how I understood that is, instead of jumping to a debt to my creator, I would say the debt I owe to my own human condition, or to the human qualities that I find in myself. Because I find them, I owe it to myself or to the condition, and where that condition comes from, I can investigate, right? But I owe it to the existential state that I find in myself to investigate, to make use of them.
Yeah.
And I think that approach, for me at least, is more satisfying than
Of course.
saying.
I jumped. Yeah, I admit I jumped because the purpose was to
Because then I
study
could say, I didn't
religion,
ask to
death.
be created, and I didn't ask to exist. I didn't ask for all these favors.
So, but that is what you feel. But
Sure.
yeah, what you said, the process is a better process in acknowledging yourself first, and then using your own qualities, and then coming to the conclusion. Yeah, but I'm not saying you did something wrong and extra or unnecessary, or you did best, really better. But our purpose is to understand what the Quran says, deen, although in this particular text, in this particular context, studying religion, the word religion, because it doesn't mean that the Quran only starts from here. This is not a scratch. This is the 17th chapter of the Quran. So there were 16 more chapters establishing the more fundamental matters that we have been studying. Now, introducing, if you like, what I feel, introducing a new concept, religion, to this, not only in historical context, a pagan society with no culture, no civilization at all, just living in a wild way, killing each other, right? In a competition of tribalism, my tribe is better than yours, your tribe is better than mine. Of course, we have to understand that the reason why tribalism were so much, how do you say, effective, this idea, because they didn't have no other, that's another subject again, going back to historical background. They did have no civilization, nothing to be proud of, but one thing. Living in a desert, seeing the constellations at night in the desert, not like the life in the big cities at all, and seeing the deep down of the beauty in the sky, on the land. There is no end in desert. So their imagination was extending to almost limitlessness. So that you become, in this sense, emotional, right? Well, in New York, have you ever thought of the beauty around you, or try to get through the crowd and catch the first public transportation? Which one? Sorry? I don't. Okay, you are exceptional. We are just trying to survive, really, in this society. We have no luxury to go and watch the sky and become, look at this beauty, look at this embellishment around what is going on here, where I am. No such concern. So they were almost culturally led by poets. Understand? So poets, what are they going to do? They are mostly not realistic, but somehow imagination. Where are they going to concentrate their imagination on? Okay, let's list the heroes of my tribe and compare it with the other one. Mine is better, theirs are not really as good. So this poet, most of the wars started off with the complete competing poets saying that my tribe is better than yours, your tribe is better than mine, and then it arose the people's emotions against each other. So they started to that. What do you say? That you cannot insult my tribe. You can hold you down, kill one of them. The war starts. Here, you know, the blood retaliation. For no reason they were fighting each other. It is this, how do you say, the effect of the, if you like, intellectuals of the tribes. They didn't have any other source of knowledge, information, anything. So they were proud of their poems. It's interesting. So Quran came into this context and used this poetic language, especially have you ever paid attention to the nature of the Quran, that the early revelation, the verses are more poetic. And if someone is a poet, so as he writes poems, he must develop his kind of poetry talent. No, the Quran reduces its poetic language to all through its advance. Towards the end, he just explains how are you going to arrange your relationship between this and that in an ordinary Arabic language, almost. All the details are there, I admit, but compared with the early revelation, they are almost all of them were abstract notions, mostly based on emotional experiences, right? Even this language itself here, what, have you ever considered the one who denies religion? It's a poetic language. أرأيت الذي يكذب بالدين فذلك الذي يدعو اليتيم ولا يحض على طعام المسكين. Look at the rhymes, poetic language. But When it comes to Medina, later period of revelation, you don't find mostly these rhymes. So the poetic value diminishes. It doesn't mean that it becomes an ordinary human language, but diminishes if you study the language of the Quran, really. Well, although it should be other way around. The tenants in poetry must increase. Is that the more poem you write, the more talented you become. But Quran reversed. Why? Because the point is not Muhammad's being a good poem, but not poet. Demonstrating. So this is also used in the first revelations of the Quran, mostly very strong poetic language. But the content of the, if you like, Quranic poet, but using it in quoted sentence with the word poet, nothing to do with the content of the prevalent understanding of poems in the society. It's a completely new way of presenting your poems. It is very interesting to see this. They were shocked. Yeah, it is beautiful. The poetry is very powerful, but it has nothing to do with their tradition. It's a new, again, innovation. It's an innovation in the cultural context. Now, how about ourselves? We keep saying that the Quran should not be historicized. Yes, shouldn't be really pushed back in its historical context. So for us, we learn typical language and mostly concerned with what our daily life. Yeah? What do you want? Do you eat? Don't go there. This is dirty. Don't to keep your room tidy, or be careful when you go out. The traffic is heavy. This kind of language we learn. But when the Quran comes, we are introduced to a completely new language. Hey, who are you? What are you doing in this world? Right? In your childhood, try to remember as much as you can. Have your father or mother ever told you, hey man, what do you want to eat? Why don't you eat? You will suffer. You have to take care of it. Go to bed early, but not, go to your room and think about why are you here on earth? And what is the nature of this world? Your parent is speaking to you when you were 5, 10 years old. No, they are mostly obsessed for your education, get a better profession, preparing yourself for the life as far as the life conditions, the worldly life conditions. That is what we have to read the Quran. Look, forget about all the things you heard about Quran, religion in general, within your family culture, within your practical life culture, which kind of concerns you have when the Quran speaks what? Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. What? Read in the name of your Lord who created you and the world. What? I've never heard this. Be frank. Not because of certain religious cultural background. In your worldview, there was no such thing introduced to you. But only those religious families taught their children how to recite this verse that we are studying. Recite it, memorize it, and take your hand, hold your hand and take it to the masjid and see that, look, we do this kind of things. As a child, you said, oh, the great men around him, prostrating themselves, what the children do, they just throw themselves on the face, on the floor. Why? This is big man, especially the great man. Father is doing that. There must be something good. Imitating that's the child psychology. Nothing more. So the Quran says, hey, pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. You are here for some another reason. You have to think why you are here. Yeah? You have to look around and read. Although you don't read, Muhammad didn't know how to read at all. Yeah? But says read. Come on, I don't know how to read. No. I don't mean to read the book, man. To read yourself, to read the universe, to read the things around you. Right? Oh, it is completely new and strange. That is the continuation of this introduction. We have to put ourselves within the same context. I am originally, although I heard something from your parents, forget about them. They are the learnings of the culture, not really learning what the reason of your existence in this world, reason of being in this world, your duties, or if there is not. Do you have to take care of it? Do you ignore it? We don't know. So when you address yourself to the Quran on a blank, if you like, slate, the tabla blanco, what they say this in English? The blank table, slate, or
Blank canvas.
blank,
Blank slate.
blank
Blank slate.
slate, or canvas. Yeah. You are. I am. We don't know. We think that we are introduced religion. No, you don't. You are just introduced the very, very, very the last outward form of religion. Not what the Quran says. Not what how the Quran introduced. So you have to start as if reading the Quran. In fact, you are, but culturally you think you are not. As a pagan, like a Bedouin, desert dweller Arab. That is how we should read the Quran. Forget about your culture, because your culture prevents you from really introducing the essence of the teachings of the Quran. You have to just put it aside. At the very end, you will need it. But last 2-3 years of the prophetic mission, all these kind of moral values and rituals and transactions organized, introduced to you in the revelation. So you have to go how many years of training of the first revelations? 17, 16, maybe 20 years. And then last 3 years, you will really start utilizing, oh, my father was going to the mosque, praying in the mosque. It was for this reason, but I didn't know. As a child, I went to the mosque with my father. Not mother, because in society nowadays, mothers are excluded from the mosques in most of the part of the Muslim world. Now, think that your worldview really, originally, was not different from Arab, Bedouin, tribalist, pagan life. We have to admit that, so that we can really open ourselves to the teachings of the Quran as we are hearing it anew right now. It is, in fact. But unfortunately, the word we learned from the culture, God, religion, prayer, worship, are, if you like, veils, screen between me and the teachings of the Quran. We have to be very careful. I say, I don't know who's privileged. The ones who grew in a Muslim family or community, or not. Which one? Depends. It is questionable according to your attitude. If you utilize the Quran if you address yourself to the Quran open up yourself to the main teachings of the Quran and then utilize the culture as a form of it in your practical physical life, then okay. Otherwise, it is harmful, not useful. It is just an obstacle for you to open up. The Quran says Allah, God, Akhirah, the eternal life. Oh, I know them. Yeah, yeah. We worship God. Yeah, we worship God. When I ask, what do you mean by worship? We started stumbling or whatever you call them. Or how do you call them? Not speaking.
Stuttering. Stuttering.
Stuttering. Yeah. Worship is worship. Yeah? Worship God. Yeah? Don't you know? You know as well, huh? Huh? But we don't explain. What does it mean? I said, or I'll come to you. One thing, very recently, I was having a discussion like this again. I used the word, most of my addressees were mostly, were like you know, coming from Muslim background. I used the word, expression, not the word, the order of the universe. Is it normal? Is it? A college student came to me privately. She's religious. Religious, praying 5 times a day. She said, it is the first time I heard this concept, order of the universe. I said, college student, practicing Muslim. She was never taught to pay attention to the nature of the universe. Which kind of reading I should apply to the universe? What aspects of the universe speaks to me? So I should make sense of it. Really, never mind whether you may pray or not. Originally, if you have not refreshed yourself with the teachings of the Quran, still pagan. Okay, it's very hard to digest. It is hard to digest for me as well. So we have to admit that. Don't say that I am a pagan, I'm not a Muslim. No. Attitude. Yeah. When you are reading the Quran, I am not different from the pagan Arabs the Bedouin Arabs who address themselves to the Quran, or the Quran addressed them as they are and civilized them so that in a very short period of time, they became the leaders of the civilization of the world with the teachings of the Quran, because foundations were solid, strong. So what we do now, without foundations, we paint the second floor, third floor rooms and make pictures. Foundation is, as the Quran says, the house is based on sand, not a rock. No foundation. In the culture, they don't teach the foundations. They just make you memorize that the pillars of belief are 6. Okay? What are they? Altogether, children, altogether. Okay. Believe in God, believe in angels. God have angels. God has angels. What are they? Angels. You know, my mother keeps talking about Satan, and Satan always deceives you, you know. That's it. Why? What does it mean? What does angel mean? Yeah, God has angels. Don't you? Oh, come on! Don't you know there are 4 major angels? Azrael, Mikael, Jibril. What are they? The prophet. Oh, there are 24 or 26 names of the prophets mentioned in the Quran. We believe all of them. Do you know all of them? No. But we believe all of them. What do you know enough? Have you learned anything from them? No. How do you believe in them if you don't know anything about somebody? Yeah? They told us that there's a guy in China. He is very, very knowledgeable in, let's say, with computer technology. You say, I believe. Do you know anything about technology? Computer technology? No. Have you ever read anything written by him or presented to you by him? No. I believe. Well, never mind. I believe. I'm a believer, a strong believer. I've got faith in my heart. That's our life. Really, if you take this artificial appearance, paganism is there. Okay, it's a very hard to digest, but you have to understand who we are in order to address anew to ourselves to the Quran and see what does it say. The Quran say, don't deny your debt. Right? What does it mean? Okay, your turn.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to the first point, which is about the dain or the debt. So I think there's a really good point in terms of there's no consent to take that debt. But I just wonder, like, there's just so many ideas because that's the first time I really connect both words. I'm just wondering if maybe before we were born, this might sound crazy, I don't know, but I know there was this stage where all the souls have, Allah put His ruh like into
Excuse me, Allah, Ruh. How do you know? Where are they? Where did you get these concepts?
like there's the ayah that
No, but there's an ayah. Just a minute. We are reading the very, very beginning of introduction of the verses. So don't use the culture.
no, it's not a concept.
Culture.
Oh, it's not a culture.
It's culture.
I don't think you can understand the Quran without understanding the culture of the Arabic time. There are specific.
By the way, we were late. We studied. We watch this.
I mean, there are specific
video.
ayats inside the Quran where if you don't understand the culture, you don't even understand them. This is one example. I listened to a lecture very similar to this. It said there will be no food in hell but the bitter dahir. And dahir, this is a desert what is it called? Thrown like needle. That if a camel is left in the desert for a couple days and it's hungry, it will go and eat the dahir, like one of the thrones, and then this dahir gets stuck in its throat.
So what?
So the issue is like right now, I can share this ayat with you, but you won't feel anything because you don't know what this is. But if you understand the culture of Arabic times at the time, then you can understand the meaning of the Quran.
Okay. This is a very general approach. I know this is very, very, very widely spread among the community, but we are trying to understand everything. But I don't know. Do we have to go back to 5 years ago lectures? So we have been developing it. Welcome. All right, but really, we have a background. So we are not saying that. But for example, did you listen? I think you came very late. So did you listen to the beginning of today's lecture, today's class? We summarized the cultural background where the Quran started speaking to the people. Without knowing that culture, we don't know that we are pagans really originally, although we may memorize a lot of verses, but memorizing the verses, knowing the verses, doesn't mean that I have gone through these teachings followed from the beginning to the end of the Quran, which took 23 years. So we have to start from the beginning. New concepts are introduced. That's what we studied. If you like, you can not many of them.
This concept is not anything new, right? You need to understand the Quran. Like, just don't memorize it. Like, this is not a new concept. Like,
of course not. In order to understand the Quran, you have to know that I should get rid of my culture, start from scratch in order to train myself, educate myself. That's what the Quran speaks to me personally.
In order to understand the Quran, though, you need to be able to understand the culture of the Arabic times.
So, but first of all, introduce yourself. Read this one as we are reading. Be patient. Be patient. We are going to read this verse as related to us. I think, I don't know how much are you aware of our methodology, the following here, establishing everything for myself from scratch, not borrowing anything from the culture, but from scratch. The Quran spoke to the people, the pagans that time. That's why we have been emphasizing that. In fact, if you take out the cultural if you like, form of religion that we learned. As far as the belief system and educating ourselves through belief methods is concerned, we found ourselves that we are pagans. That's what we have to understand. But knowing some information about the practical side of Islam and learning that in Islam, that's what I was really joking and at the same time mocking. That, I believe in the angels, or I believe in the prophet, because there are four angels. What does it mean? What does angel mean? I don't know. What does really prophethood mean? I don't know. What does really revelation, God's speech? What do you mean God's speech? Which kind of guy he is that he will speak to me? What does it mean? So when it comes there, the very foundations, that's what we have been talking, very foundation of the Quran, we are not different from the first addressees of the Quran, the revelation. What time is it? Oh, 22 past, and we haven't prayed al-Maghrib. So, sorry. So, it is difficult to understand. It is easy to narrate from the already existing culture of the Quran, say that the Quran says this, etc. No, put yourself, look at this. What are you in debt of to whom?
Yeah, I generally have a question. I'm serious because I'm just wondering if there was a time that we gave consent or we said.
That's what I understood
that we don't remember. I don't know because when we were
excuse me, I understood you perfectly. We had a covenant with our Creator, as the narrator said. We have to understand. Do you remember the covenant? How do you know that you had a covenant? Where is it for, as far as your consciousness is concerned now? We are going to study this. We are going to concentrate on these things. But narrating from the Quran doesn't make you a believer in it. Belief means certainty. Belief means really being convinced. But tell me, where is the covenant? I don't remember at all. And I have no capacity to do, but I should understand the concept of covenant, right? With through my spirit. Most of the people deny their spirit anyways, but you have to prove that I have spirit really, huh? And then I had a covenant with the Creator. What does it mean? Is it really Creator? Is it really possible? Have you questioned? That's what we are doing here. We have to be patient. The newly ones, I don't know how many times you attended our class or listened at all on video recordings.
This stuff like there, but like I don't, maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but I feel like you're also, when you say I don't want any culture in this, you're also getting rid of like 1500 years of
not getting rid of. Putting aside,
like
you will need it at the end.
Can I talk?
No, we have not. Yeah, you have to talk, but I know you need to talk. But we have very, very limited time for our Maghrib prayer.
I'm only talking because you asked me a question. So
Okay.
If you don't want me, that's okay.
No. If we had time, I would definitely listen to you. Okay. So we had only 6 minutes for Maghrib prayer. So this is just an introduction, okay, for the chapter. So we have to understand what does this denying or denying the death, because we established that culturally, when this revelation took place, they didn't have the concept of religion in pagan society. So that's why we emphasize on the necessity of realization that if we take away the cultural influence that is assumed, accepted with no confirmation, realization, conviction, we are left with pagan culture. It means we don't know. We are talking about it, but we don't know what we are talking about. I'm not saying you are unbelievers, but we have to approach to the Quran from scratch. That's why we are, for example, are you aware that, one question, yes or no? Are you aware that we are following the sequence of the revelation so that we are developing our own human capacity to understand how to make ourselves subject to the teachings of the revelation? For example, that's what our principle is here. That's why we start everything from scratch, no imitation, no quotation, no reference to cultural information. Put the culture, not deny, aside. You are a Muslim, pray, continue. We are going to pray now. But we said, in order to benefit from this world, we have to see that we have no confirmation in our human sight. Now, we heard, no confirmation, no satisfaction. Okay, I have to stop here. Okay, that's it. No, that's it. So, we have to. Otherwise, I would like to listen to everyone.
Like it's just something.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.